Perfect timing to get this request because I'm rewatching all the Paranormal Activity movies to cover on my podcast. Let's do it. Paranormal Activity opens up with a message that says Paramount would like to thank the families of Mika and Katie. So already just starts off making you feel like it's real. And then we meet Mika and Katie. So we meet them as Mika is bringing home all this camera equipment. And right off the rip, we learn that the reason that he's bringing this home is because Katie has been experiencing some paranormal activity since she was a child. It's gone away for a while, but now it started up again, so they want to see if they can catch it on camera. They start filming at all times, including when they're sleeping. On night one, they're dead asleep, and we hear these keys jingling downstairs. Next morning, Katie goes downstairs and finds that her keys are on the floor, so something dropped them. Because of the shit that's been going on, Katie hires a psychic to come check out the house. His name is Dr. Friedrichs, and Katie explains how this started when she was 8 years old. It's kind of been following her on and off ever since. They take Dr. Friedrichs on a tour of the house as they tell him what's been going on, and at the end of it, he's like, I deal with ghosts. What you have here is a demon. Like, you are being haunted by a demon, and I am not equipped to deal with that. But he does give Katie the number of his colleague, Dr. Avery's, who would be able to help with that. Mika, meanwhile, you can tell this whole time has not been taking any of this seriously and brings up using a Ouija board, to which Dr. Friedrichs is like, absolutely fucking not, because then you're going to invite it in and make it worse. So Katie says she wants to call Dr. Avery's, but again, Mika is just being a fucking dick about it. And he's like, I'm in control. It's my house. I'll take care of it. And he just continues to film and weird shit keeps happening. Like one night we see the door creak open on its own. We hear footsteps and humming noises. One night Katie wakes up gasping, saying that she just had a nightmare. And the next day when they look at the footage, Mika hears this voice saying something in a different language a few seconds before she wakes up. At which point Mika is like, oh, this thing's obviously trying to communicate. I'm gonna get a Ouija board. And Katie's like, no the fuck you're not. So a few days go by and nothing happens. And Mika's almost like antagonizing this thing, like trying to bait it. That night they hear a huge crash downstairs and they go down and the chandelier is swinging. Everything's a mess. And the next day Mika is like, this is so cool. We need to get it to do more stuff. What? So he gets EVP equipment and tries to communicate with it. That night, they're filming while they're sleeping again, and we see Katie get up in this, like, trance-like state, and she stands at the bed like this, and it time-lapses, and she stands there for 2 hours, just completely motionless. And then she just walks into the dark hallway down the stairs. Mika finds her sitting outside in the cold and brings her back in, and the next day, she doesn't remember any of it. So at this point, Mika, being the absolute fucking idiot he is, decides to ignore all warnings and bring in a Ouija board. Katie sees it, flips the fuck out, and storms away. When Mika follows her, we see the planchette moving on its own, and then we see it light on fire. So Katie is still saying she wants to call the demonologist, and she feels like the cameras are making it worse. She's getting increasingly aggravated with Mika because he's just being a dick. And Mika is like, no, you're not calling anybody. I'm trying an experiment. So that night when they go to sleep, he sprinkles baby powder in the hallway and like across their threshold of their door. Sure enough, it actually works. That night they wake up and they see footsteps in the hallway leading to the closet. And they see that the attic is open in the closet. Mika goes up there and finds a picture, and it turns out it's a picture of Katie when she was a child. But we've already learned that Katie's house burnt down when she was a child, and there's no pictures of her or her sister remaining. So they have no fucking idea how this got there. Or how this even exists, period. So Katie's like, great, your experiment worked and all, but this demon thing is still fucking here. I'm calling the demonologist. So she proceeds to call Dr. Avery's, but of course he's out of the country. So instead she calls Dr. Friedrichs, who says he's going to come back the next day. Shit continues happening that night. The door slams, they hear pounding on it, there's footsteps, there's banging. So the next day, the both of them just look defeated. Katie at this point is absolutely distraught. And then shit starts to happen in the daytime. That's how you know you're fucked. They hear a loud bang upstairs and go up to find this picture of them shattered directly on Mika's face because even the fucking ghosts hate him. And Katie can feel something breathing on her neck. So Dr. Friedrich shows up again and basically is useless because he's like, I don't like it here. This is overpowering. It's getting angry that I'm here. I'm making it worse. Dr. Avery's will be back in a few days and he'll be able to help you more. Katie asks if they should leave, and Dr. Friedrich says leaving won't help, but then proceeds to leave himself. So pretty much this thing is attached to Katie, not the house. The next night, they're filming themselves sleeping again, and Katie this time is literally pulled out of bed by an unseen force and dragged down the hallway. And the next morning, Mika sees that Katie has a bite mark on her back. So at this point, Mika's like, okay, I'm getting us a hotel. We're leaving until Dr. Avery's comes back. So Mika gets their stuff together and comes down to see if Katie's ready to go and finds her in this like catatonic state on the floor, and she is clutching a crucifix so hard that her hand is bleeding. So then we cut to an image of Katie lying in bed, still acting super weird. And Mika's like, okay, I've packed the car, like, we're ready, let's go. And Katie abruptly changes her mind and is like, I actually think we should stay here. I don't want to go anywhere. So they stay. And that night, Katie once again gets up in the middle of the night. She is in a trance-like state, but this time she goes to Mika's side of the bed and just stares at him for like 2 hours, unmoving. After 2 hours, she walks out of the room and starts to walk downstairs. We then hear Katie blood-curdling screaming Mika's name from downstairs, and he runs to go see. But then we don't see anything, but we just hear Mika start screaming. And then all the screaming stops. In the silence, we hear footsteps approaching and coming up the stairs. And then Mika's lifeless body is thrown at the camera, which knocks it on its side. We then see Katie standing over his body covered in blood, and she kneels down and crawls towards Mika's body and starts smelling him. And then she looks up at the camera with this super eerie grin on her face, and she snarls and lunges towards the camera, and it cuts to black. The movie ends with words saying that Mika's body was discovered a few days later and Katie's whereabouts are still unknown.